From the heart of our nation's capital, here's Family Research Council President Tony Perkins.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Washington Watch. Coming up, Democrats have set up a war room to plot out their steps in an effort to eliminate the legislative filibuster in the Senate if Joe Biden wins the presidency. Why? Mississippi Senator Roger Wicker is here to explain. All right, according to the Associated Press, Democratic insiders have set up a war room to quickly kill the Senate legislative filibuster early next year if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris seize the White House. Now, the way the legislative filibuster works is that while it only requires a simple majority, normally 51, to pass a piece of legislation, the rules that have been in place for years in the Senate require a 60-vote threshold to approve moving to debate or ending debate. So while it only takes 50 to 51 to pass a law, it takes 60 to get to the law. Now, some say, well, that's crazy. Well, that's long been the rule. And yes, it does slow things down, but it has been the means by which a number of bad ideas have died in the Senate. So why the push to do away with the filibuster? After all, that's what the members of the Democratic Party have done to kill police reform, have killed the coronavirus relief measures. So why then do the Democrats want to do away with the filibuster if Joe Biden becomes president? What is it that they're up to that's so unpopular? Joining me now to talk about this is Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi. He serves on the Senate Committee on Rules and Administration. Senator, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Well, Tony, thank you very much, and you've outlined it pretty well. Let me say at the outset, it's an honor to be on your show.
Well, thank you, sir. It's good to have someone from a neighboring state of my home state of Louisiana here, Mississippi, one of the great states in the South. I hope you all are not going to get too much water from the hurricane coming through.
Thank you, and we would appreciate being remembered.
Yes,
it's going to be a tough day or two.
Yeah, we, of course, we're accustomed to that down on the Gulf Coast. Let's talk about another hurricane, and that's what happens if the preparations being made now, if Joe Biden were to capture the White House. There are plans in place now, the Democratic insiders putting together this war room to plot out a strategy to eliminate this legislative filibuster. Why?
Well, you said the filibuster slows things down. That's exactly what it was designed. That's what the Senate was designed for. As a matter of fact, it's been said that the creation of the United States Senate, which is unique around the world, was an original stroke of genius. It not only slows things down, as George Washington told Thomas Jefferson it was intended to do, but it also promotes consensus. It promotes bipartisanship. And still, some of the major accomplishments that the federal government has been able to do have been done with the consensus that was brought about by the filibuster. The Social Security Act, Medicare, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. They all had to overcome a filibuster, and the result was bipartisan compromise. Legislation that has stood the test of time and reflects broad consensus. And that's what we need in the United States Senate.
But, Senator, is this a reflection of where Washington, and I would have to say the rest of the nation, as we see what's happening on the streets of America, that there is a polarization, an ideological polarization that has taken place where it's become more and more difficult to work together?
Well, that's true, but it's also a reflection of where the Democratic Party wants to go. I mean, the American people are going to be heard, and I certainly hope Donald Trump is reelected and majorities, Republican majorities, result in the House and Senate. But if they do get everything, here's what they want to do. They want D.C. statehood, and they know they can only do that with a bare bare majority. That's an extra 2 senators for the Democrats for the foreseeable future.
Let me stop you. Let me stop you there for just a moment, because I want to make sure our listeners understand what we're talking about here. D.C. has long been trying to get statehood. It was never designed to have statehood. It's always been in fact, I don't think there's ever been a Republican governor here, mayor here. It's always been liberal. And they want to make it a state. It would be the 51st state. That would give them 2 senators, which shifts the balance in the Senate even more. And then from there, that enables them to do some other things that they would like to do that will basically secure their control over the federal government for years to come.
Right. The other thing, they'd like to force statehood on Puerto Rico, although the voters down there on that island have never had majority support for statehood. They like their own situation down there. But, there's nothing in the Constitution to say there are 9 members of the Supreme Court. That's a matter of statute. And if the filibuster is abolished, our Democratic colleagues intend to increase the number of Supreme Court justices, and this is reminiscent of what FDR tried to do.
Exactly.
When he had a little trouble with his New Deal, he just proposed court packing, and people from the right and left rose up and said, "No, that's not fair." But this is absolutely something that could be done with 51 votes and the signature of a President Biden or President Harris. The Supreme Court could go from 9 to 15 with the stroke of a pen.
And let me again explain what that means. We are one Supreme Court justice away, and I know you have a stellar record on the life issue. In fact, you've led out. You're not just voting right on the life issue. You've led out on the life issue as a leader. We're one vote away on the United States Supreme Court to seeing America becoming a predominantly pro-life nation again, and Roe v. Wade being sent to the dustbin of history. That would be changed under this scenario that you just laid out, because they would pack the court with liberals, and all that has been accomplished in terms of moving the court back to its constitutional boundaries would be lost. Is that correct?
That's correct. And not only that, but even because we have to have consensus in the Senate, we've been able to preserve the Hyde Amendment for all these years. The late Henry Hyde had an amendment that prevents taxpayer funding of abortions. The Dickey-Wicker Amendment is still the law years after J. Dickey passed away and I moved over to the Senate. It prohibits the destruction of embryos using taxpayer dollars. All of that would go away if we don't have the bipartisan consensus requiring mechanism of the filibuster. If you like right-to-work laws in your state, and most of us have them, that's one little bill, Section 14B of the Taft-Hartley Act, could be abolished with 51 votes and a Biden signature, and there's no right to work left anywhere in the United States. It's a stunning and bleak future that this war room is planning for our country.
Now, I know there have been some conservatives outside the Senate that in the early days of the Trump administration were advocating for eliminating the filibuster, the legislative filibuster. I've never been a supporter of that because I think, as you've described it, I've heard it described this way, kind of an illustration that the House is the teacup, and the Senate is the saucer. And the hot tea goes into the cup, and then some of it spills out into the saucer, and it cools in the saucer. And that's really what the Senate is. It slows things down. But quite frankly, Senator, I have to say that not all that much that comes out of Washington is good. And so I think the less Washington does, I think the less it does, the better. Now, an example of where there was bipartisan cooperation and shows that it can work when people want to was the first couple of iterations of the coronavirus relief efforts, where there was a unifying effort there to work together. Now, that's since fallen apart, but when the American people speak and say we want something done, we tend to see Congress respond.
Absolutely, and we're in the political season now. Thank you for pointing out that these very same people who have designs on abolishing the filibuster were happy to use it against Tim Scott's police reform bill for the sole and only reason that he is an African-American Republican who's articulate and conservative and connects with the general public in a fantastic way. Only because that was Tim Scott's idea and Tim Scott's bill did they use the filibuster to prevent us from even getting to the bill for amendment, for debate, for discussion.
Senator, I'll use a biblical reference here, and it's not. I know the Scripture doesn't speak to the legislative filibuster, but it warns not to remove the ancient landmarks. And I think the meaning there is that when you're going back and undoing something that's been in place a long time, you need to think hard and long about doing that. And I think when it comes to the legislative filibuster or changing the Constitution, you got to think long and hard about that because there are repercussions for those decisions.
Well said. Well said. Thank you so much, Tony.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi.